Should I even connect the microphone? Let's try. Okay. Okay, let's see. Hi guys, I'm here with Anna for real estate. She has a lot of info and really good information, guys. So stick around, listen to the experience that she's been. How long have you been in the real estate?
This is my 22nd year.
22nd year. Wow, yeah. I bet she has a lot of experience up there. So stick around, guys. It's a lot of info here. Whoever's interested in real estate, like even commercial, I think she does commercial and residential. Is that correct?
We've got somebody in our office that does commercial real estate. So yeah, I can definitely point you in the right direction.
Okay. Well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How long you've been with the company?
Sure.
And all that good stuff.
So yes, I got my license as a salesperson in 1998. In 2005, I got my broker's license, and I've been with only 3 companies. I was with Remax, Coldwell Banker, and I joined Weichert Realtors as an exclusive buyer broker in January of 2019.
Okay. How has the experience you've been with this company through the whole 22 years?
For all my 22 years.
Yeah.
So prior to coming to Weichert, I worked with both sellers and buyers, and I just found that my niche was really working with buyers and meeting their needs of finding the perfect house for their family. And I preferred making that connection happen rather than working with sellers. So it just worked out that Weichert Realtors, Jim Dunphy and Associates needed a buyer broker, and it was a perfect fit.
Nice. What is your? Let me ask you this question. What is the thing that you love about being a real agent to sell house? What is your favorite thing?
So I'm a people person. I'm very outgoing. I'm an extrovert. My degree from college was in social work. So I did work in the social work field for about 7 years before I got into real estate. So generally, I just like to work with people, and this was a good fit because it's 99.9% of the time a really good experience in making people happy and getting them in the homes that they want.
Wow, and what is the satisfaction behind, like when you see that person walking through the house and you tell them the house and what is the good thing? We got another phone call in line.
Sorry.
That's away. Okay, so let me first the question. When is a good time to buy a house, or it's not a good time to buy a house, or it's always a good thing to buy a house? Tell us a little bit about the area.
Sure. Right now, in just the economic situation that we're in, it's a really good time for sellers to sell a house because the prices to sell a home have increased, I think it was right around 12% within the last year. So it's a huge increase for sellers. For buyers, although they're buying at the highest price in the market in terms of a sales price, they're also borrowing money in the least expensive way because interest rates are generally below 3% for either a 15 or a 30-year mortgage. So it's kind of a really happy medium. Sellers are getting more than they expected for their house, and buyers can buy more of a house than they had expected because interest rates are so low. So it's a good time for everybody. The difficulty we find right now is that there's just not enough inventory. There's not enough homes on the market for buyers to buy. And when sellers sell, there's not always a great place for them to go. Some end up going into an apartment for a short time or relocating out of the area, or some are just downsizing. So it really is a good time right now on both sides.
Okay, so it's a good time to buy, but let me ask you this: if you can share a little bit of information about what is the difference between buying a house for 15 years and 30 years? Can you give us a little info? Because believe it or not, a lot of people, we don't get it. We just get excited. This is the house that I want, and they just run into start buying the house.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference between 15 and 30 years?
So the time that you're going to own this mortgage is going to be determined between you and your lender as to what is going to be the best fit for you on a monthly payment basis. And the lender also takes into account your credit score, how much down payment you're making, and that sort of thing. So there's an FHA loan that you can do that's a 3% down out of pocket expense. And so you're mortgaging 97% of your loan, and those are 30-year loans always. You can do a 15-year or a 30-year, I'm sorry, 15 or a 10-year loan with a conventional financing, which if you have a little bit better credit score, that helps you be able to have the ability to get a mortgage for less amount of years, still at a decent interest rate, but you're a little bit less of a risk to the bank, and so you're able to qualify for a better banking situation. So 30 years doesn't mean you're a horrible person that can't, necessarily get a loan. It's just that that's going to be the longest extent of your mortgage, reduces your payment. So you do have a lower payment for a longer period of time. And a lot of times you can prepay additional additional principal payments to reduce the number of years in your mortgage, and still keep your initial payment the same. So you can make additional payments to your principal to try to reduce that number of years from 30 down to 20 years instead. And you can do that pretty quickly, making additional payments within your first few years of the mortgage.
So basically, like, let me see if I understand, because I'm really little brain. So let's say if you have 30-year mortgage and I can pay my minimal, what I'm supposed to pay for the house, then I can throw on top of that like more money for the principal.
Correct.
And that reduce my interest throughout the year.
That's going to reduce the amount of principal that you're going to owe over the course of the loan, which then in turn reduces your interest because you're not making 30 years worth of payments. Your payments will get reduced down to, they say that if you make one double payment in your first year, it decreases the amount of the years of your mortgage by half. Maybe in the first year, but not every single year. You can't continue to do that and then whittle your mortgage down to 2 years or something, because you still have a good chunk of principal. But initially in your first year or two of the mortgage, if you do make those extra principal payments, it does make a significant difference in your amortization scale, which you can talk to your lender about renewing one of those every time you make a double payment, and it'll show you just how much you're taking a chunk off of your mortgage by making a double payment. The way that works is when you do a 30-year mortgage, if your payment, for instance, is $500 a month, $480 is going towards interest and only $20 is going towards principal, for instance. However, if you make an additional principal payment only, you'd have $500 going towards principal, and you don't have to make an interest payment if it's a secondary payment. And so you've just taken, rather than $20 every month to add up to 500, you're throwing 500 at it all at once. And so that takes a big chunk off of your principal, which then in turn will reduce your interest because you're shortening the life of the loan.
Wow, that's really powerful information, guys, up there. Whoever doesn't have this kind of info, put attention, because you might can pay your house sooner than you think if you follow this little simple step, like throw a little bit the money to the principal and don't just pay the minimum payment to your house. You can, and what I understand, if you own more of from your house, if you later on in the future you want to take another loan, according to how much you owe in your house, you can get more value, right?
Right. So that's called building equity in your house. So the more you pay towards your principal is building equity in your house. So yes, you can borrow against that, called a home equity loan or home equity line of credit, which again, you would go to your lender to do that. And they would evaluate how much equity you have in your house as to how much you can borrow against that to continue to do home improvements, or some people use it. It's just a line of credit. You can really use it for anything. It doesn't have to be used towards the house. You're just using the house as collateral.
Oh, okay. So let me ask this question, because I'm always curious about how to reinvest money. So let's say, for example, I know that I can get another loan for let's say 60 grand because I almost finished my house to pay. So I can use that 60 grand to buy another house and kind of fix it up and flip it. Or
you certainly could. I don't think that there's any rules against that, but when it would come time for you to sell your primary residence where you're borrowing that $60 from or $60,000 from, that has to get paid off the same time your principal house gets paid off. So if you're borrowing $60,000 as equity from that house, if you were to sell that original house, not the flipping house, but your original house, then that home equity line of credit does have to be paid off at the same time you pay off that house.
Oh, okay. See, guys, I didn't know that part.
So it's revolving only for the time that you own the property you're borrowing against.
Oh,
if that makes sense.
Okay. That makes sense. I think I was gonna go start buying another house because I got a little bit equity in my house. So, well, be careful, guys. So let me ask you this other question: how many houses you show a month, every day, or?
Oh goodness. Well, these last few years have been really very busy in the real estate world. Lots of home sales. We've had, as a matter of fact, over 3,800 just this year in St. Joe County.
Wow.
And across the board in the United States, it's been significantly higher in these last few years with real estate trading. But, I make a correction, 3,500, a little over 3,500 homes sold in St. Joe County just this year. And that was a pandemic. So imagine,
wow.
Fortunately, the real estate world did not really get hit. We were considered essential workers. We didn't get hit hard with having to refrain from working. We just took the necessary precautions, followed what the governor had said in terms of rules with masks. We have waivers that we have buyers sign before going into a home, just verifying that they're not sick, they haven't been around somebody who's sick. All parties have to wear masks, sanitizer, booties in houses. So by taking the proper precautions, it really didn't stall out our market at all. And so 2020 was a pretty much record year for St. Joe County. For me, individually, I would say I can show anywhere from 20 to 30 houses a month, pretty steadily. There's some weeks that are heavier than others. For instance, if I have a out-of-town buyer who's coming in and they're specifically here to purchase a house in a certain weekend, we may look at 15 or 20 houses just in 2 days.
Wow.
But if it's somebody who already lives here that's just looking for their next house, we may look at 1 a week or 2 a week until they find the right house.
Okay.
And that can sometimes take, it can take a month, it can take 6 months, and just waiting until somebody finds, the right house. Again, with the market as busy as it is, and there's multiple people vying for the same properties, buyers do have to keep in mind to be patient this time of the year because there's more buyers than there are houses. And so many times when one person finds a house that they love, so do 10 other people. And so we're getting multiple offers. And again, that's very beneficial for a seller, but on a buyer, it can be really frustrating because they can come in with a very strong offer and still not get the house. If they're up against somebody who's paying cash, or for instance, somebody who has a different lending practice or a different lending pre-approval letter. We've had to get creative with how to structure an offer so that it puts the seller in the best situation financially without sacrificing a lot on the buyer's side. But you got to do what you have to do to win these days.
So let me see if I understand. You guys, for example, if it's we have 10 people trying to buy the same house I wanted, but I was there and I have better way to pay it, or better come first in line. You guys hold the house for me, or?
No, that is not the way it works these days.
Okay.
So, for instance, if a house goes on the market on Friday and they leave it open and it has several showings over the weekend, and by Monday morning they've gotten multiple offers, then the seller will declare a stop time. So they may say, we'll take any and all offers as long as we have them by 5 o'clock Monday night, and we will make a decision Monday night. So then every person who is interested in the house has the opportunity through their agent to make an offer and have it presented to the seller along with all the others. So it really doesn't come down to a first come, first serve basis. It's just get in before the deadline. And then the seller will evaluate all of the offers that they've gotten and determine based on what they have in front of them, what's going to be the most beneficial to them as a seller. So first and foremost, sellers will generally take a cash offer over anything else. Cash is king. Cash is king still. It doesn't require an appraisal. It doesn't necessarily require inspections. And a buyer can buy it as is, cash, and make it as easy of a transaction for the seller as possible to just be able to move on from that house without any expense, with the exception of like a tax liability a seller has. But if a seller doesn't have to make corrections to a house or improvements or make any repairs, that's just more on their bottom line. And so a seller would be very inclined to take a cash offer. Next to that is going to be a conventional offer that, again, you can structure it however you want with inspections or appraisal or repairs, so, or tax liability. You know, all of those things can be structured into the loan to make it beneficial to the seller, even though a buyer may be using a mortgage to buy the house. And then kind of what comes into third place, it would be an FHA loan or somebody who's asking for seller assistance. So there's still buyers out there that want to buy their first house and they might not have a ton of cash on hand. It doesn't disqualify them for a house, but in a situation like this where they're up against competition, it really pushes them to the bottom of the line because, again, a seller is going to look at what's most beneficial to them, not necessarily what's most beneficial to the buyer themselves.
Okay, that kind of pops my other question. Can you explain a little bit about like what do they call short sale? I think.
Oh, a short sale?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work?
Well, we're not seeing a lot of those right now. Short sales are typically bank-owned properties.
Okay.
We'll also see sometimes the Housing and Urban Development HUD, when they get a hold of properties from people who have went delinquent on their mortgages, then we'll see some of those on the market as well. So because of the state of the economy and the fact that borrowing is so inexpensive, we're not seeing a lot of people defaulting on their loans. Now, in saying that, given the pandemic, there may be a trickle down from the pandemic that will cause people to become delinquent on their mortgages in the near future. And if that's the case, then we may see some more houses that fall into that category through the HUD system where they've had to give their house back because they haven't been able to keep it. A short sale is typically when the bank has intervened, somebody has said, I can't make my payments, and the bank says, well, if you owe $70,000 on the house, we may be willing to take 60 and call it good. But the bank has to approve that. And we don't see a ton of that around here. It has happened. It's just not in the frequency, I think, because of our numbers. We obviously only have a certain number of homes on the market. So in bigger cities, I think that they probably see that a lot more than we do.
Okay, that's a really good info, guys. Put attention, because I'm learning a lot. Anyway, so let me ask you this: how often? No, I'm sorry. What range the house did you sell? Like from 20,000 to 30,000 to $1 million? What is the typical sales you sell?
Everything. So I've sold anything from right around 20,000, and it was, I think, a HUD property, as a matter of fact. All the way up to, don't think I've sold $1 million yet, but just under that, $900,000 properties. So yeah, I run the gamut. I've sold them all, big and small.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So do you do real estate commercial? You want to say something about that area?
Oh, sure. So I don't work in the commercial district of real estate. We do have people in our office that kind of specialize in that. Just like I specialize in residential real estate, there are people that specialize in commercial real estate. So David St. Clair is somebody in our office that has done that and works with his dad in the commercial area. He can be reached at 574-850-5964. And again, his name is David St. Clair. You'll probably see signs of his around, pretty big wooden signs, yellow and black, of course, with his name on them, doing quite a fair share of commercial business here in St. Joe County.
So basically everybody has a little piece of cake in the facility, right? You do residential, they have a commercial.
Everybody kind of has their niche. Obviously, with it being, we're all independent contractors, and so it's kind of competitive. Business isn't given to us. We have to earn our business. And so really our sphere of influence and the people that we are involved with at church or school or our grocery people or our hair people, our friends and neighbors, those are the people we really rely on, as you probably can understand in business, that if they trust us, they're going to do business with us and they're going to refer us to their friends. And that's really, that's how our business revolves. Certainly we get some people who call in just randomly on our phone number and say, hey, I drove by this house and I'd like to go see it. We've got Zillow out there that, can send people our way when there's for sale by owner houses. So there's definitely that kind of traffic out there. But by and large, as I said, you can attest, friends, family, and people we do business with, referrals are our best friend.
All right. Okay. And since you say you don't do commercial, I'm going to hit another questions with the, how do you guys handle like foreclosure houses? Do you guys have a specific department for that, or how do they can get in contact if you like people like want to start buying houses and flipping, or buying houses and rent it out? What kind of area that you can give us information on that? So
any licensed real estate agent can do anything with residential housing, whether it's a foreclosure, rental, leasing, flipping. Any licensed agent should be able to help you with that. A commercial is really going to rely on something more along the industrial line, along building up of land to create a business. But in terms of anything that takes place within a residential home, like leasing or flipping, any licensed agent in Indiana can help you do that.
Wow, that is awesome. So it's a specific website that they can go and see if there are foreclosure houses in there? Or...
Sure. Yeah, so one of the biggest ones that I use, it's called HUDhomestore.com, and that is kind of their catalog of homes that are available that anybody can go to, agents or the general public can go to that website, HUDhomestore.com, and any house in St. Joe County or really Indiana, you just specify where you're looking, will show up on there if it is a HUD-owned property. And now there are hoops to jump through to purchase a property like that. It's not difficult, but I highly recommend having an agent navigate you through that process because it can be pretty tricky.
Okay. So it's always good to have somebody that knows the routes, that knows where to go, because sometimes we think we can do everything ourselves and you fall in a big hole and you're like, I should have given the help with Anna.
Right. So, thank you.
Okay. So anything else you want to add about the commercial side? Like, let's say it's a lot of, do you know with you co-workers, if there's a lot of sales in commercial, or is this anything like that, or you don't want to share that because that's not your niche?
Yeah, that's really not my expertise. So I'd hate to speak to the commercial side of things. I'm just not familiar with their numbers, their availability, if they're facing the same type of market that we are in terms of it being a seller's market and a lack of inventory. My guess would be that stretches across the board, but I really can't speak to the commercial side of things. Really just the residential and so if you have more questions about that, I'm happy to answer anything in terms of residential housing.
Okay. So one more time, that phone number for the guy, if he's in commercial areas, so
Sure.
people reach him if he's interested they might be wanting to expand their business, they might need another warehouse to storage things or whatever.
Sure.
Can you throw it up there?
Sure. It's David St. Clair. His phone number is 574-850-5964.
Okay, so there you have it, folks. If you guys interested in commercial side, you can reach that gentleman, and I'm sure he'd be happy to help you with all the questions you have. So back to Anna. Anna, I'm gonna be more personal a little bit.
Sure.
What is your favorite thing to do? Personally?
Outside of work?
Yep, outside of work.
Don't have a lot of free time, but well, it's ironic that you have this picture behind me because that is my happy place. Anytime I can be in warm weather, near the ocean, or actually any water, I'm willing to take a lake in Indiana. I'll do Symington Lake in Elkhart just to have water.
Nice.
But that's what really gives me an extra boost, is to enjoy what's God created for us in water and the ocean and sand and sun. And I much more prefer that than what I hear is coming later this week.
Yeah.
In terms of snow.
We're going to have snow and all that good stuff. So what is your favorite work to do in the real estate?
So again, I really get a boost out of helping first-time home buyers or people who I've worked with subsequently to continue to move up the ladder in their homes. It's just finding that joy, being part of that joy that buyers have when they have made that connection with their house. Anybody who's bought a house can probably attest to having that feeling. You know the house that's a good fit for you generally when you walk in the front door. Before you really even spend a whole lot of time, you just kind of will have a feeling when you first walk in. And then the more you walk around, the more it becomes real. You realize that it is the perfect house for you for that time in your life. So helping people make that connection, especially first-time home buyers, because it's so special to be part of a major milestone in people's lives.
Yeah, the big change, because when you buy your first house, you get excited. You don't really realize like how many details can go into a house, like property check, the property quality check.
Sure.
The house is in good shape. It's not. It has some things that you got to address, and have an agent like Anna showing us the first time they walk into your house. Yeah, this is what we can see here, but it might be kind of issues. So that's really good to have somebody like you to show us.
Well, thank you. I do pride myself, and I tell my buyers across the board when we first meet, I will generally go into a house looking for something wrong. And
that is awesome.
Because buyers will tend to go in with, kind of rose-colored glasses and think everything looks fantastic just to be able to get a house, get out of an apartment or get out of mom and dad's house or whatever their situation is. And they, see something that they think can be theirs, but not necessarily looking at the pitfalls that come with owning a home. And there's a lot of, maintenance and things that go into maintaining a home. And so I tell them right before we get started, I'm generally going to go in and look for things that are wrong with the house, things that, may be a health or a safety measure that need to be corrected before you can move in, but also things that down the road you could either improve or fix in order to put value into the house. So that if it's not someplace that you plan to live forever, then what is it going to take for you to, be here, but maybe make a little bit of money in the future? So I kind of look at all those aspects of it for any of the buyers that I'm working with.
That's really awesome of you, because now you're thinking like how they can make money and don't waste money. So for example, you say like, I'm going to say, well, you better than me. How do you put a little bit improved into a house that you're just going to spend there, let's say 5-10 years? Sure.
So the major things that help you add value to a house are kitchens and bathrooms. Obviously, those are the big focal points of homes in terms of having the correct updates. Secondly, when you have your major mechanicals that are in good condition, including the roof, the central air, the heating, your windows, water heater, all those components of the house that help it function. Not that those things have to be brand new, but be maintained. And that goes a long way in being able to keep the value of your house. Those kinds of things that make a house run aren't necessarily going to increase the value, but when they're in good working order, it helps keep the value up in your home. Like I said, the biggest place you're going to see the availability to make money on a house is making the appropriate improvements in your major living areas, your kitchen, your bathrooms, the living room maybe, and sometimes the master bedroom. That's become a big one these days, is kind of having an owner suite where they can escape to. Lately, it was very creative in 2020. I've seen older homes that have formal dining rooms that nobody really uses a formal dining room too much anymore, maybe once or twice a year for the holidays, but then the room just kind of sits there. Mm-hmm. Given the advent of at-home learning and a lot of adults also working from home, I've had people turning their dining rooms into what they call Zoom rooms. And it's an ingenious way to use a room that wasn't previously getting used. Putting in a long countertop, lots of cupboards, lots of space for people to be able to do their Zoom classes or meetings and not, be all over the house. Everything's kind of centrally located, and I think we'll be seeing more and more of that as we move forward in these next years.
In the next year, so wow, awesome ideas. Right. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of wrap it up. 3 things that you recommend to the people that's gonna buy the house not to do. Oh, because you already experienced many of those things. Sure. So how can you help with three things that they don't do so they don't make those mistakes?
Okay. Those are always good things. One thing is to, I guess, don't overspend. Mind your credit. When you go to get a pre-approval, they are going to look at your credit. So don't be spending more than you can afford to pay back right now if you are actually looking to go into a house, because you want to be able to show that you can borrow money and pay it back appropriately and not have more debt than what you're bringing in your paycheck. So that's going to be important, is not to overspend. And if you have, it's not the end of the world. A good lender will put you on the right path of how to mend your credit if you've had a few bumps in the road. So that's one big thing. The second big thing is to not start looking for a house until you have been met with a lender to get a pre-approval. Because again, they're going to look at what you can afford in terms of a house. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will shop online, which is fine. It's a good place to start. You can look around. But the reality is if you're looking at $200,000 houses, because that's what you're drawn to, but your checkbook says you can only afford a $125,000 house, that's a big difference. And it's fine to look at it online, but when it comes down to starting to walk into houses and going into other people's properties because you have a intention to buy, you really need to be pre-approved for the exact amount that you can spend.
Isn't it crazy? I'm going to interrupt a little bit. It's like you go into the store, mm-hmm. the grocery store, you are very hungry.
That's right.
You just want to grab anything that you see because you are so hungry. So I'm assuming when anybody want to buy a house and they so anxious to get out of the mom's house or out of the apartment, they anxious just to go to find a house and don't think straight. So
yes.
Did you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Did that ever happen to you? Like you went to the grocery stores and you're so hungry?
Oh, for sure. Everything starts to look good. Even the worst things start to look good. And the same thing can happen, yes, with home shopping is either you bite off more than you can chew or end up maybe sometimes making poor choices of either, things that you might not really be willing to sacrifice in a house, but then because you're so anxious to get in there, you think, oh, I'm willing to give this up. And in reality, it was a bad choice in the long run.
Yeah. And everybody does it. I mean, I think I've done it before.
Oh, sure. I think we all have.
Oh, man.
Mhm.
So, okay. So one of the questions that I'm going to ask is, what is your favorite book to read?
Oh, goodness. So as a guilty pleasure, I like to read People magazine. That's just like a fun thing for me to do, to pretend like, you're a different person than who you are. Aside from that, I read the Bible every day. I read devotion books. That's all I really have time for. I don't leisurely read, unfortunately.
Okay, so what is your favorite restaurant for you? Where you like to go eat, just in case if it's somebody like, oh, I know she's there, I can go talk to her personally.
I'm sad to say that my very favorite restaurant was Temper Grill, and they just closed last week, was their last week. So I'm going to have to find a new favorite, I think. Yeah, I was very sad to hear that.
I'm sorry, especially it's your favorite, and you just got to close it down.
That's right. That's right.
So what was so special about that restaurant?
Really the atmosphere was fantastic. And if I can make a plug, I don't even know who owns it. The New Bar Louie is actually a pretty good alternative, because it has really to do, for me, it has to do with the atmosphere and, just the fact that, when people are there and everybody's happy, it's an open atmosphere. So you don't feel like, it's not so much a lack of privacy, but just kind of the open air atmosphere where you feel like you could start a conversation with the people at the next table if you wanted to. But if not, you've got your own space. And yeah, so that's what and it felt very homey at Temper Grill.
Okay, awesome, guys. So if you guys are open, see you have you customers behind you supporting you. So if you guys get to hear this, don't quit. Keep pushing forward. Right. So what is your favorite pastime? I think you already told me, but can you tell me?
Yeah, just anything outside in warm weather. We garden. I've got a golden retriever dog, so we take long walks with the dog. We go to the park. We take him to the lake to go swimming. Anything outside as long as the weather's warm.
Awesome. So guys, one more time so they can reach you or contact you if they want to buy a house, or if they want more information about anything about real estate, where they can reach you.
They can reach me at 574-340-0906. That is my direct number. It's a cell. You can text me. You can call me. It's the easiest way to get a hold of me. 574-340-0906.
Okay, and what is your whole name? So
it is Ann, ANN, Davidson-Dolgos, DOLGOS.
So there you have it, guys. If you guys are interested in buying a new home, she will hold your hand until you find the right house for you. She keep a lookout for you guys. If that house is not all the way in good shape, they do all the quality checks. I'm assuming you go through all that so you can give the client what they need, and don't just go crazy and buy this house. This is mine, and oops, the roof had a leak. So they're the experts for that area. So if you guys want to buy houses, you can contact them. And again, we are with Industrial Office Cleaning. The Industrial Office Cleaning sponsors this podcast. So if you guys interested in come to the show and share your story, what are you offering to the community? Because it's all about growing the community around us is the main power of this. So if you want interest to share the story and share what you offer to the community, don't forget to sign up in Michiana podcast. Let me see, Michiana podcast, Michiana Business Podcast. I'm sorry, guys. See, I forget things. So, any other words that you want to say before we wrap it up?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come in and talk to you.
Oh, thank you. We are really thankful that you come aboard. So, there you have it, guys. Don't forget to sign in to the Michiana Podcast. Thank you so much.